This is Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, the viewer's guide to genre television for the weeks of September 7th to September 20th, 2024.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Wendy Hembrock.
I'm Brent Barrett.
And I'm Kevin Batchelder.
Welcome back for some fun. If you aren't listening to us, we recommend you go over to Discord and join in the conversation with other listeners. Always got some good conversation going on over there. And we also have polls running. We just finished a poll talking about Arcane Season 1. And of the people who watched it, they either really liked it or loved it. Only one person said it was okay. But a lot of folks who voted haven't seen it yet. So it looks like there's a lot of opportunity for folks to discover the show.
Yeah, and that's the most disappointing thing for me in this poll is seeing that it's like 60% of our listeners who participated in the poll haven't seen that show, and it's really worth checking out, guys.
Come on now, we got Kevin to watch it, and it's animated, folks. Come on. Plus, it's really good.
Really good, yeah.
Well, we like it so much, we're going to do a bonus show just focused on it, so that might interest folks to do a catch-up, as we're going to be talking about Season 1 fairly soon.
Yeah, good idea.
So let's get to talking, and first we're going to head over to the water cooler.
Do you enjoy movies where scripts and production values are ignored in favor of dudes in rubber monster suits chasing bikini beach girls? Is quality of gore more important than quality of acting? Then Junk Food Dinner wants you. Junk Food Dinner is an explosion of cult movie podcasting, devastating the internet with shrapnel made out of horror, action, and sci-fi flicks. Each week, your hosts bring a favorite movie to the show to swoon over and or hate on. Go to junkfooddinner.com to download some episodes now or search for it on iTunes.
So let's talk about some shows. First, we've got the quick reviews for shows from September 7th to the 20th, which isn't that many, surprisingly. First up is The Ark, Season 2, Episode 9, Cycle of Violence, and Episode 10, It Should Have Been You. I've only seen Episode 9, which I'd give a high watch it soon.
Yeah, I'm not watching this one yet.
I'm not watching either.
Next, we have The Lord of the Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 5, Halls of Stone, and Episode 6, Where Is He? I would give them both high watch it soons.
I give the first one a regular watch it soon. Second one a high watch it soon.
Yep, I match Brent on that one.
Okay, and we had the premiere of Agatha All Along on Disney+. Season 1, Episode 1, Seekest Thou the Road? And Episode 2, Circle Sewn with Fate, Unlock Thy Hidden Gate. I would give them both watch it soon, maybe tipping over to high watch it soon.
I'm kind of like that. I think it was a pretty good start for the show so far. I'd give the first one a watch it soon. Second one I thought was a bit better, so I go high watch it soon.
Wow, and again, I match Brent. Yes, we're definitely on an upward trajectory with these episodes so far.
And finally, we had Winona Earp Vengeance on Tubi. I really enjoyed this. I would give it a very high watch it soon.
I haven't been able to watch it yet. I'm not even sure if I can. Is this a free thing? I don't remember.
Yes, Tubi is freebie.
Okay. Well, if it's available for streaming or rewatch, I should be able to catch up, but I haven't seen it.
Yep, it is there for anyone, including Brent and all of you. If you haven't seen it yet, please do. The viewing numbers in the early days are very important to our chances of getting more ERP. For me, I will give it a low watch it now, and we'll talk about it later.
That makes total sense. So let's move on now to some news. We didn't get any feedback. I'm a little disappointed, folks. But first up, we got some news of the cancellation variety. Apple TV Plus has canceled Time Bandits after only one season. I think of the three of us, I'm the only one who watched this, and I only made it through the first 2 episodes and got busy with other stuff and never bothered to come back. I think that happened to a lot of people. So it is no more.
Yeah, this is I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was really quirky and kind of cool. And I love time travel stuff. Just wasn't really drawn to the show. And even so, even if I was, it wasn't one I could easily watch. So I haven't seen it. So it is bad news, I guess, for fans of time travel shows and time stuff, as well as fans of this. But yeah, I haven't had a chance to check it out, and I guess I never will.
Well, it is on my list for when I get Apple TV again, probably around the time we get Monarch back. But sad that there's only a single season. I'll at least give it a couple episodes a try. But Wendy, what you said is something I've seen from several other folks in my social circles of, yeah, I watched an episode or two, I just never went back.
Yeah, and one of the producers is Taika Waititi from What We Do in the Shadows. However, he's only one of 3 producers, so maybe the quality just wasn't there. You know, too many cooks sometimes make a muddied soup. So next up, Brent has got some news about Orphan Black Echoes.
And this one does kind of sadden me. Orphan Black Echoes I had been watching. I know a lot of people were kind of uneasy about it, unsure about it. I actually kind of enjoyed it by the time it got to the end of the season. Sadly, that wasn't enough. AMC and BBC America have decided to officially cancel it, not just not renew it. They've canceled it after just the one season. So unfortunately, this season finale, while I did enjoy it as it got closer to the season finale, and I thought it was a good cliffhanger-y sort of ending, I wouldn't recommend it for somebody who wants a good finish for the show if all they get is this one season, sadly. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, unfortunately this one didn't stick for me after several episodes, but you know, I never like to see a genre show passed on as far as more content, and well, I might have gone back if we had a season 2 and such, so sad news for sure.
Yeah, this one is definitely disappointing to me. I kept going mostly because of Brent saying that, it kept getting better, and I found that to be true. And unfortunately, they did leave it on sort of an incomplete note. So I wouldn't recommend it to other people either, knowing that there's not going to be any more of it, which is unfortunate. Yeah, this is disappointing. But something that's not disappointing is Kevin's news about Arcane Season 2.
Yes, I'm sure some of you knew that every, once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, Netflix does their Geeked Week, where they share all kinds of previews and clips and stuff from their shows. And that was out last week as we're recording this. And so naturally one of the items I expected in there, which was good to see, was some Arcane stuff. Specifically, we got a clip, link in the show notes to a YouTube video about 2 minutes long. Won't go into much detail there, but one of our main characters in there a bit. But the key for me, which was good to finally get, was the official announcement for release date, or dates, as it was for Season 1. They're going to drop them again in 3 episode sets. So the first set is on Saturday. They're doing a Saturday release, which is unusual for them. November the 9th, and then the 16th, and then the 23rd. So I think that'll make for some fun conversations, certainly here. We'll have a few episodes and then some time to maybe be talking about them. So good to officially get the date. We knew it was November, and now we can make some plans as well as some others can.
Yeah, this was about, a minute and a half clip. Looks like they're taking things up a notch a little bit with intensity in Season 2, at least judging by this. And I do like that they kind of dropped all of the acts and the dates. That's nice to know.
Yeah, I don't know, Kevin, what your opinion is, but the clip looks more like it was a flashback to me than anything new, but it did look interesting, although it didn't tell us much. It just gave us some character building stuff, which is pretty cool. But I am in agreement. I love the idea of dropping a show, not one episode a week. I don't like that. That's too limiting. And I also don't like them all to be dropped sometimes because, like what you have said, what both of you have said, what everybody says, it's really nice to be able to talk to people about stuff as you go along. And if everything's dropped at once, if you don't watch it all at once, you can't do that. And you can't even talk about it episode by episode because everybody's watching everything. So having them dropped in 3 chunks is kind of cool because it lets us talk about each third, I guess, in between the episodes, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And now that I'm deep in the world and all the folks that are doing reactions as well on YouTube, it's going to be some pretty packed weeks going there in November, but very much looking forward to it.
So next up is a show I think we're all looking forward to, which is Wednesday. Season 2 first look is in our show notes, and this is on set shenanigans plus some snippets of the season, which is always nice to see. And I'm excited for this show to come back. I really, really like this show. I don't remember if it had timeline. No,
just 2025.
Coming in 2025. Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't mean like fall of 2025. I don't remember. When did it come out the last time?
It's like in 1986. I mean, it seems like it's been forever.
But definitely looking forward to this coming back.
I am too. This was great little video. I didn't really see any scenes, I don't think. I mean, somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. I saw them filming a couple of shots from the new season, and it ends with a really cool shot of Jenna Ortega looking forward, and then she kind of side swipes her eyes and looks right at the behind the scenes camera, which is a great way to cut it. But yeah, I'm psyched for this show. I really enjoyed Wednesday season 1. And Jenna Ortega's great in the role. In fact, all the actors are great in the role that they have cast them on. So I really like this universe. I can't wait.
Yeah, I was kind of hungry maybe for a little more, maybe actually some, like you said, scenes or trailer, but it's still too soon for that. But still good to have a little first look and remind us, because again, it's been a while. It was actually November of 2022 Wendy, for when it dropped. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's going to be more than 2 years between seasons. I'll use that as a lead into my Tuner Minute. But we still got a bit, 2025, no idea what part of the year. But again, part of that Geeked Week was good to see, and just to kind of go on the tangent related to that Geeked Week from Netflix. Yeah, you got to get better hosts for like your studio part of when they're doing that. I mean, I know they're playing up their games that they're trying to promote and a lot of anime, so naturally they're going to be younger hosts, but my goodness, it was just, fingernails on a chalkboard for me. I could only watch little bits of that. But again, good to get the Arcane and Wednesday stuff at least during all of it.
Yeah, wow, I didn't realize it had been that long. No wonder, because when I first saw it, I was like, season 2, aren't we on season 3 by now? So let's move on to another show we've actually been talking about a little bit. Brent is going to talk about Twilight of the Gods.
Yeah, the show has premiered, by the way, Twilight of the Gods. This is the Zack Snyder animated Norse Gods series. It's on Netflix. It debuted on September 19th. It's got 8 episodes ready for everybody to view. I haven't yet seen them. I do plan on watching them. Again, animated, so may not be something for Kevin unless we all say it's amazing. So if you do think it's amazing, be sure to tell Kevin it's good. It's really, really good. And he might watch it. This trailer that we're linking you to is the official trailer. It seems like I don't know. I'm summarizing from the trailer. It seems like it's focusing on one, I think, human woman. She might be a god or a goddess or a demigod. I don't know, but she like challenges the gods. And it looks like she puts up a good fight because it is the Twilight of the Gods. That's the name of the series. So, it is from Zack Snyder. You can expect a lot of even animated slow-mo violence and blood and gore and probably sex because it's Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I have no plans to check this one out. So yes, I would need some amazing compliments from many folks. I did look at the trailer, but yeah, not for me.
So this was interesting because the prior trailer just basically showed us it was going to be the gods, and in the Zack Snyder style. This one, it looks like from the comments, it says, this woman is Sigrid, and it looks like she's going to team up with Loki somewhat. was my read of it. I have not seen this yet, but I am going to put it on my list. I know we've had folks in Discord talk a little bit about Chaos with a K that's on Netflix that I also started to watch, which has a very similar theme because it's about the downfall of the Greek gods. So must be a trend topic lately. But this trailer did its job. I'm definitely going to keep it on my list to come back around and look at. So we know that we've got a new Wynonna Earp movie, and Kevin's got some other Wynonna Earp news.
I do, and this is another case, as we've talked about sometimes, 200 minutes on here, that something that we enjoy is going to be available in different formats. We've got some audio dramas coming for Wynonna Earp, specifically one entitled Wynonna Earp Tales from Purgatory. It's going to be released on Audible on October the 17th. Link in the show notes to an article, which also has a 30-second trailer, which, it's audio only, so it's just a couple of little moving scenes. But you've got the entire cast that you've seen in Earp, plus several of the characters that weren't in the recent movie, but were in the show involved. It's more than 4 hours worth of content. It was written by showrunner Emily Andrus, along with several of the other folks who've written for Earp. So it's a set of stories. They're set between the end of season 4 and the movie. So they're in between there. So, hey, another great way. If you're an Audible member, get access to it, or I think it's available for less than $20 if you're the type that wants to grab it. So it was really good to see, the interest from Audible for some Earp in that venue.
This is interesting, especially because I did see the movie and I am a little curious. They hinted at some of the gaps, but there looks like there's definitely some interesting stories to learn a little bit more about in between. So this is cool. Very exciting for Earp fandom to be getting all this new goodies.
Kevin, I know you would, break your habits and even break your rules when it comes to Wynonna Earp. So I got to ask you, in general, for other shows, another medium, or other titles, I guess, I know you don't prefer animation, but what do you feel about like comic books, continuing stories, or audio dramas and things? Are you okay with those?
I mean, I've tried a few in the past. Buffy comes to mind, Firefly, and there've been a couple others. I know, didn't Orphan Black do some audio stuff too? I don't remember listening to it, but I remember some folks talking about it, and I'm sure Mark will let us know. I don't tend to go to it, but I have sampled some of it, just, for curiosity. And in this case, certainly with Earp, we all know how heavy I'm in there, but it's also great that it's the entire cast and the writing team. So it's not like it's, some other folks they brought in. So I'm very curious how it's going to feel being audio only. And it's going to be interesting. And I think we've talked about this sometimes that, these actors are used to doing, on camera stuff, and they're doing audio only. So some folks are good at that. Some folks not so much. So I'm very interested to see what it might be.
The writing is going to be the real test, right? Because to write an audio drama, it's different than writing a teledrama or a televised thing or anything it's on film, anything that's live action. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I know definitely you would listen to them regardless because it's Wynonna Earp.
Yeah, but I would think, Wynonna Earp has such a specific kind of snappy, bantery dialogue. I think that part would work really well. I'm not entirely sure how the plot translates when you're talking about an audiobook, because it is, as Brent said, so visual in terms of, what crawls out of somewhere and it tries to attack you. So that'll be interesting. So next up, speaking of actors in the Wynonna-verse, Melanie Scrofano, a.k.a. Wynonna, has also been cast in a new series for Sci-Fi titled Revival. She's going to co-star with David James Elliott, who played in Jag, which is not a show I ever watched. But this is an adaptation of some comics, and it's a story about those who have died in rural Wisconsin who come back to life, but they are, quote, not zombies. They are revived, and they act like they did before. There's also a character in the story. So Melanie Scrofano plays Dana, who is the daughter of the town sheriff. But there's also a sister, younger daughter of the sheriff, who's got some mysterious illness. So I can't really tell from this if this is going to be like super horror drama, if it's going to have some level of humor in it or not. We'll just have to wait till we see a trailer.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what this is either. I think I'm going to wait and see too. But big fan of Jag back in the day. The Jag created a spin-off series you might have heard of called NCIS, which is a very long-running show that's still on the air. David Giandelli was great in that role as Harm. And, of course, my favorite was Catherine Bell, who was his co-star for a very long time in that show. So it might get me even more interested in the show if they cast Catherine Bell, but Melanie Scrofano is pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. As soon as this announcement came out, Mel shared some photos on social media. She's actually shooting this right now, so I don't know what that might mean as far as when we might get to see it on Sci-Fi. It's an interesting premise, I got to say. So I'm very curious what like Brent said, what the tone will be, what kind of show it is, to see there. Hey, Sci-Fi has gone quite a while without much new stuff. So for all our ups and downs with them as a network, I still want to see them succeed. So let's find out more and maybe get a clip or a trailer or something kind of soon, hopefully where they're already shooting, to maybe get a feel for it.
Yeah, totally. So next up, Brent has some news about Star Trek Lower Decks.
Yeah, speaking of animated, one of Wendy's and my favorite shows, Star Trek Lower Decks, is coming up for its final season, season 5, and they released a full clip. In my opinion, it's a very fun clip, and it features actually one of our stars, one of our main characters from the show, my particular favorite one, which I've talked about before, Tindy. So if you want to find out what she's up to, this little clip will give you that. It doesn't really, I don't think, tell too much about the rest of the crew or what's going on in the overall story, but it's a really cool sequence. It does also feature some cool references to a pretty popular or at least memorable episode of The Next Generation. You know, the one where that collector guy wants to own data for his collection. So there's a lot of references to that in there. But the series is coming back for its final season on Paramount Plus on October 24th.
Yeah, I saw some other folks talking about this on social media too. So I'm glad the timing's coming together and folks are going to get a chance to see this.
Yeah, this actually looks like a fun story. And I do like Tendi a lot. And I like the interplay between her and not sure what he's called, what kind of alien he is, but fun stuff. Definitely looking forward to this coming back. And I'm a little bit bittersweet. It's like I want it to come back, but I also don't want it to end.
Yeah, and I love in the trailer, as I was watching it when it first started, this not trailer, I guess it's a scene. I said, wait a minute, that's the voice of Tindy, and she's not only the voice of Tindy, but she's speaking like Tindy would speak. And I'm thinking, is this Tindy in disguise? And then sure enough. So I love it.
Yeah, I like the reveal. So that is going to wrap up our news. We're going to close the water cooler with the Tuner Minute. Kevin recorded this week's titled Catch Up.
So in today's TV world, we're at a point where many of our shows often have a year, 2 years, even more between seasons. So we're going longer and longer between having our content. So I don't know about you folks, but for me, even for shows I greatly enjoy, I'm certainly forgetting a lot of the things that happen. So I often, before a new season is coming for a show I enjoy, want to be able to catch up. Now, there are many ways to do it. Certainly you can do a rewatch of previous seasons, maybe the last couple of episodes of the season, maybe read a recap, maybe find a recap on YouTube, whatever it might be. So I'm curious for you, if there is a show where you feel you do need a bit of a refresher, how do you tend to go about getting it?
Well, this is interesting. It definitely depends on the show. We were talking about, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, like Rings of Power had been not top of mind. So I went back and I actually ended up watching the whole thing over again. But I could have just as easily maybe watched the last episode, because as I was watching it, I realized I did remember a lot of what I was seeing. One show, though, that I always had to go back and watch most of it was Westworld, because there was just so much going on in that show that I totally needed to do that. Generally, I try to just go back to the season finale, and if that's not good enough, I'll kind of jump backwards. The only times I want to do a start to finish is if it's a somewhat short season, or it's a show I just really love watching over and over again, so I'll happily kind of start from the beginning.
I definitely don't have time anymore for full rewatches. That's out the window. If somebody recommends or I stumble across a short, it's got to be short, recap that somebody does, kind of like a primer to remind you of what happened, I might watch it like on YouTube. It has to be short though. If it's like a 30, 40 minute, like, come on, man. If it's 10 or less, sure, I'll probably check it out. But I kind of test myself. It doesn't always work. I kind of test myself by actually watching and hoping that the little recap at the beginning will like clue me in, and I also try to remember as hard as I can what I liked about the show. It usually works, although quite often like a character will appear and either I'll go, oh, wait a minute, yeah, that character, I didn't even remember that character, or worse yet, it'll be a character shows up that I don't remember at all, and then later on I find out either by watching somebody else react to it or listening to you two talk about it. I'm like, oh crap, that character was in that other season, or that other character was doing this. And so it doesn't always work for me, but I'm not big on, I just don't have the time really to get back up to speed. So if there's something really brief that falls in my lap, I'll watch it. Otherwise I just try to go off memory and try to pick up things from, like little triggers in my brain as I'm watching stuff. So, like I said, it doesn't always work, but that's kind of the technique I'm using right now.
Yeah, and somewhat similar to you folks, I've been kind of all over the board, which is kind of what got me thinking about this a little bit, is that I know this summer I was thinking of doing a season 1 rewatch for, The Rings of Power, much like Wendy had touched on, because I remember enjoying it, and I remember there being a lot going on, and I just ran out of time with other things, Dragon Con prep and some other things going on, real-world things. So I went and found a really good recap on YouTube. I think it was like a little over your limit, Brent. It was like 14 minutes or something, but the same idea. It wasn't like an hour or even a half hour. And I thought, okay, and that was good to kind of center me again. I mean, the one thing just kind of annoys me in this arena is that many of the networks, so streamers, will do like an official video on their channels, their YouTube channels, or even on their platforms to recap, but they're doing like a 5-minute one. And my God, even an 8-episode season, you can't cover it in 5 minutes. So those are almost distracting because they fly so fast. But like something like Arcane, and granted we're doing separate podcasts purposely, but even so, I'm definitely making the time for that one. But I don't tend to have enough to do a lot of the other ones. So yeah, YouTube's become my friend, I got to say. Looking for recaps or summaries or something is usually something I'm doing if it's a show I want to at least feel grounded again, because then we touched on it with Wednesday news and other stuff. It's years since it's aired. So yeah, if my enjoyment, like Wendy said, is enough that I want to do that full rewatch, maybe I'll make the time. But even when I wanted to, sometimes real world got in the way. So it's what got me thinking. I wonder what other folks are doing.
Yeah, I know we're going to talk about Agatha all along in the back porch, but for me, I kind of wished I had gone back and gotten a primer somewhere, because I was definitely disoriented watching that first episode. So that will close out the water cooler. We'd love to hear your thoughts about any of the news we talked about, or Kevin's 200 Minutes, or anything else that's on your mind. And now we're going to head over to the back porch.
Today we talk about Agatha All Along, Wynonna Earp, Vengeance, and Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
And as promised, Brent is going to kick off our discussion of Agatha All Along.
Yeah, I was promised. No, I usually kick off the Marvel stuff, and that's just because I'm such a Marvel fanboy, I think. But Agatha All Along, this again, just for those, it's been a while. Just tying with Kevin's 200 Minute, it's been a while. since we had WandaVision, where we were introduced to Agatha Harkness. And apparently comic book fans knew about her for a while back because she's from the comics. But we pick up not really where we left off, but in a sense where we left off, because we left off with Wanda kind of cursing Agatha, since Agatha tried to destroy her and destroy her family and did end up having to pull her away from her kids, with her being in this cursed kind of spell where she still thinks she's just a member of the town, a townie. In this case, she thinks she's a cop. What's really interesting is that it seems to come clear pretty quickly that she's not. She's like living in a delusionary world. She's still there. She's in a house. Apparently she goes about her daily tasks and things in the house, but maybe when she's asleep or some other time she thinks she's a cop. It's really weird. But another witch shows up to try to prompt her out of her spell, but then a young 16-year-old, she calls a teen, comes along and actually is apparently the one who does most of the work trying to get her out of the spell. And she finally cracks out because, of course, we know in this universe Wanda is deceased, or at least we believe she's deceased. So it looks like she's able to break out of the spell. So she realizes she's powerless. Of course she is, because Wanda took all of her power. And she wants to get the power back. So in the second episode, we see her collecting members of a coven. And she's finding these people in the neighboring towns. They're not all in Westview. But one of them is, and that's her neighbor, who is from the, that 70s show. But she's also from WandaVision. She was in there as well as a character. And she is apparently a woman who has some magical abilities but didn't know it. Because as Wanda... Agatha did a really good job in this, explaining how it all works, kind of explaining to the 16-year-old kid, in a very, very annoyed fashion, but giving us information and revealing things too about how, a coven can be collected from anybody with any kind of magical essence or magical abilities, whether they know it or not. And they're usually within 3-mile radius, which doesn't make sense to me that it could be that true even from the old days when population density was much lower, and within 3 miles you might not find anybody. So it's kind of weird that she says you can always find enough people in 3 miles. But she does go around collecting people. All of them seem to have, not all of them, a lot of them have history with her and don't like her. Some of them don't want to have anything to do with the witch's road. But in the case of the daughter of the witch, she's kind of lured there because she does want to find out what happened to her mother, because her mother apparently tried to walk the witch's road, which is how you get your power back. And she disappeared. So she wants to find out what happened to her mother. So we end up, and of course, this whole time, Agatha is being hunted down now that she's been exposed and people can sense where she is. Apparently the Salem 6 or something, it's like some weird, like ghost, wraith, witch things. I don't know what they are. But they're hunting her down, and just in time, after they sing this whole song, the witch's road door opens up, and of course, the 16-year-old rushes on in, and then the rest of them follow because the Salem wraiths are there to claim Agatha. And sure enough, they get to this road, which looks surprisingly a lot like a slightly darker version of the Wizard of Oz, Yellow Brick Road, in a sense. It's not yellow brick, but it's kind of got that familiar feel to it. And that second episode ends with them about to head off down the road. They take their shoes off, and apparently that lets them, connect with the road a lot better, which would make sense. And next episode, we're going to find out what the next adventure is going to be. But I just love Agatha. Her snarkiness is just, she's not a nice person, but she's funny in the snark that she delivers, and the way she delivers it, and how she just doesn't care about people and about things. I love the scenes like where she's telling the kid, in the exposition about one of the rules, and he says, "Oh, can you write that down in my notebook?" And there's a pin in the glove box, and she says, "Oh," pulls out the pin and throws it out the window. And then he's still holding his book, and she's like, "You want me to?" And she starts reaching for the book. He's like, "No, don't throw my book out the window." But yeah, and the neighbor, once she's broken from the spell, she's completely naked, just walks across the street totally nude, and the neighbor's like, "Hey, wait, get some clothes on." It's just really great stuff with Agatha. I just enjoy seeing this character back. The actor does such a great job with it as well. And to see all the familiar faces, too. A lot of familiar faces from WandaVision, because it is Westview. They still live there. All the people that lived there before when Wanda had control over them. Well, not all of them, but we saw a lot of them, and that was pretty cool. I also love seeing a familiar Buffy face. As you know, she was one of the characters, one of the actors who was playing a character in Westview, and she's back as well. So playing the librarian this time. Maybe she was always a librarian. I don't know, but I dug it. The first one was a little slow, I think, to build up to that point where she breaks out at the end of the first episode. But the second episode was just nonstop fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, I think I'm very much in line with your thoughts on a lot of that there, Brent. This is a case of where it was good that they dropped the first 2 episodes, because the first one was doing some establishment, catching us back up, because it had been 3.5 years since WandaVision aired. So even for folks who are fans, there was a lot to try to bring back into focus. But as you said, the lead here is very entertaining, because of the snarkiness. And the fact she's going to be encountering folks who do not like her, and how's she going to get over that, trying to get what she wants. So, it was a good build-up in the first step. The second one really started having stuff happen. It's going to be entertaining to see how this, crazy group, this coven, is going to work together, or what is going to happen to them, along with our young sidekick, as you pointed out, made for some fun stuff there. Too. So this was a case of where, it was just good to have this show here. They did a good job of making it entertaining. It was, maybe only the first half of that first episode that was kind of like, oh yeah, we got to set the table. And then it started to get interesting. And then in the second episode, it really started to have a lot happening and things to give a smile for, and some zingers poked at us. And what's going to be interesting for me now is how, now that we have kind of set the playing field and brought some of the characters in, what's going to happen in their journey to do this, and for her trying to get her power. The tone, I'm wondering how much the tone will move away from having a little, snarky, chuckling, fun stuff to whether or not they're really going to lean into some darker stuff. But I'm very pleased we got this show now airing, and I'm right there looking forward to next week.
Yeah, for me, this was, I rated the first episode a little higher than you guys. And the reason I rated it higher was, one, I liked how, the false world, they did a great job with setting that up as a detective mystery that was interesting. She was very credible as a detective. I still don't know who was the FBI agent / witch. I'm going to be curious if she comes back later. I liked also the mystery about the bedroom in her house with the son. I believe his name was Nicholas. And somebody mentioned a sacrifice. So I'm going to be curious who, if they pay that off down the road. The teen kid, I really liked how he's obscured to her. When he says his name, he literally seals his lips up, and then when they're driving and he starts giving history, she can't hear anything he's saying. So I like how they are showing the magic happening in this universe. It was cool to see her interaction with the neighbor. That was very funny. Her outrage at what's going on, and everyone else just taken aback because she's standing there totally naked. It was nice to see Emma Caulfield, who played Anya in Buffy. I recognized her voice immediately, and a fun character. And I liked that we got past the whole, setup very quickly, because in WandaVision, it went on for a long time before Wanda figured out what was going on. So I liked that we didn't have to deal with that. I liked the Coven characters. I love Patti LuPone. I'm expecting there to be definitely more snark and sass amongst her reluctant Coven. I really liked how they visualized going, underneath the floorboards and climbing down to get to the Witch's Road, and then that they had to take all their shoes off. That kind of reminded me of the Wizard of Oz, because that was all we saw was the witch's feet when the house hit her, was her shoes, and the importance of the red shoes for Dorothy. So I'll be curious if there's a reason why they had to take off their shoes. But for me, it was a good start.
Yeah, when I was watching the episodes and the 16-year-old's name was obscured and then his history, and she, Agatha was like turning up the radio saying, is it just me not hearing things? Or, I was getting the feeling, and I've seen other reactors also comment on this theory that that's actually her son and that's why she can't hear his name and where he's from and what his background is. And he like was taken away at a young age or something, which would explain why we have the stuff in the room, the bedroom that like a small child would have created, like drawings and things and paintings and stuff. There's a theory that could be actually her son. I don't know when. This would have had to have happened before WandaVision, right? If he's 16. So I don't know all the background on it, but it'd be interesting to find out if he is.
Wow. Okay. That didn't occur to me, not that deep into it, but that's an interesting twist, possibly.
Yeah, I don't remember her having a son, but I don't remember ever going in her house in WandaVision either.
Yeah, I don't think she had the son at that point, right? Because he was taken away at 3 or 4 or something.
Okay.
Then it would have been long before WandaVision.
Sure, that makes sense. Cool. So let's move on to the Earperverse, and Kevin is going to start us off with discussing Wynonna Earp Vengeance.
Yes. So, as we mentioned a little earlier, if you're unaware, the movie is airing on Tubi, which is a free ad-supported service. And it's been kind of good. And I've watched a lot of content on Tubi. They do a good job as far as not overwhelming folks with ads. But the movie, at least this first week that it's been out, has been sponsored by Audible. That are doing the audio content. So it's only been like a 30-second ad at the beginning, and then it's been ad-free to watch it. But yeah, I mean, like we've talked several times on this particular podcast in terms of time between content, it's been 3.5 years since the end of season 4. So it was interesting to come back. I mean, for folks like myself and some others who are such big fans who spend a lot of time talking about the show and rewatching it, really didn't seem that long to me, but it really has been 3.5 years. And in the content of the show, I believe it's been 18 plus months since, the end of where we saw them last. So some characters have changed and grown, and some relationships have changed and so forth. So, one thing Sharon Emily Andrus always does is she's always bold and always tries to make things as real as possible. So we get to have some fun here. We naturally start off with Wynonna and Doc, and, their relationship is always in a roller coaster of locations in terms of how they're getting along. But yeah, they've been, pulling some jobs to make some money and causing some trouble for each other. And naturally something goes wrong back in Purgatory, and we lose a very beloved character in Mercedes, but you got to have something to trigger Wynonna to need to come home. And as Emily said, the folks at Tubi certainly wanted to have a movie that respected the previous content, but still needed to make it its own. So that was the way to certainly draw it in. And as we've talked about, and you all know if you're a fan at all, there's a ton of one-liners all throughout it. Several ones that'll now be quoted, Wynonna quipping and so forth to deal with things, but it is, it's the content of about 2 episodes of a show. So there's a new villain brought in. Actress, I think, did a good job playing the, if you will, the bad guy, with a vengeance towards Wynonna to get her back and to threaten a lot of the other folks in her life. So we get to see why she's come back, and a chance for all the characters to, again, meet up again and talk about taking this on. Got a little bit of a black badge spin thrown in with an agent we don't know that turns out not to be as helpful as it might appear in the beginning. So that throws some other fun stuff in here. And in typical Earp fashion, a good part of the episode is spent in character sets, as the show has always been doing. While we do have the plot item of finding out why this character is back after Wynonna, it's more about seeing how all of the different characters, whether a relationship is romantic or not, and how they're all dealing with each other and taking the time to know each other, how some characters have grown and changed. Some great, like I say, Wynonna and Doc stuff, some way hot stuff, some why not stuff. Nedley with Nicole, Nedley with Wynonna, having some good times in there, doing some cool stuff, firing up at demons and so forth. And the one thing I always have loved about this show And we got more of it here in this one. You know, as we know, with the whole premise of the show with the curse, we broke the curse before the show ended, which was one of those, how do you have a show when you break the Earp curse, which was the whole basis, but they found a way to do it. And then in this episode, when Winona has to literally go back to, or go to hell, I should say, to take on and try to save everybody, you know, she has to give up Peacemaker to do it, which is a key part of what the show has been. And, you know, the bad guy there, the bad girl, if you will, is saying, hey, that's what made you everything. But at this point, we know after, 4 seasons now in a movie, it's Winona quoting and saying, yeah, well, that's because now my people showed up and they made me everything. So the full circle of Winona not wanting to deal with anybody and then eventually realizing it's about everybody that's in her life. So add all that on along with the losing Doc Holliday at the end, trying to save everybody, makes for some emotional roller coaster stuff, but I thought they did a really good job. It's not perfect. It's in some ways it was difficult to see some of the relationships not be where they were in a good spot, but it's the natural growth of relationships and people. So kudos to Emily really for balancing that, giving us something for those long-term fans and also something that you could ask someone to watch and they do pretty good without having seen any of the movie. So curious what you thought, Wendy.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed this, and, I have not rewatched Winona Earp. I didn't rewatch it before it started, so that I was scratching my head a little bit, because I was like, isn't Nedley dead? How is he alive? I made a note, I need to ask Kevin, how is Nedley alive? But you were mentioning the character ups and downs, and I like that the characters have ups and downs, but it doesn't turn into over-the-top machinations that separate people. And I think they did a good job, particularly with Winona and Doc in the beginning about, they're on the road counting cards, trying to make money, for this goal that they want to buy a house, buy a place that they can bring their daughter back to. But there's a lot of fear about actually doing that for Winona, and that's a source of tension between the two of them. So they sometimes need space from each other. That's very realistic to me about relationships. It's not just creating division because we want to, and also similarly, with Way Hot, there was, craft wedded bliss going on, but also, maybe Waverly needs to stretch out and grow and do something new, and given the space to do that. So I liked how they did that with the characters. Nedley was a lot of fun, especially when he was in the truck driving down the demons, running him over with the truck. But also I liked the setup of him out in the ice fishing, and that turned out to be a gateway to go to hell for Winona later. I liked that this whole setup of this story was Winona inadvertently created this demon out of her sort of frenemy from when she was living in a foster situation. And I also liked that, we didn't have too much Black Badge. We just had a little bit that could hint for the future. I liked that they resolved the story, but they left open the door for how you could have more. I was very disappointed that they killed Doc. That was frustrating to me. But I'm hoping that there's some loopholes that Winona can bring him back from the other side. I'm assuming Emily has that in her plan, because I just love Tim Rozon and how he plays this character. I loved when he jumped on the horse and was chasing the bad Black Badge guys, and then has that shootout with them. To me that was kind of classic. And I liked how it ended, at least for now, with Winona having to take a little back seat to be the deputy, not the one totally in charge. We'll see how that goes. And also not being able to rely on Peacemaker. That'll be very interesting. And then, so I'm hoping this does well enough that we would see more, because I would definitely watch another movie that gives us another chapter. I would very much look forward to it.
Yeah, from what I've heard, Emily share it apparently, and like a lot of the streamers, the first few days of the first week is very critical to how the network will look, or the streamer will look at potentially doing more content. And apparently, we did okay, or pretty good. Emily's usually pretty good at being very short to the point there, but that continued views and keeping the numbers up, viewing time and all would still be very important. But obviously, Tubi's very much into it. Their social media teams went crazy for the last week or two till it aired with all kinds of fun stuff. So they totally went all in on it too. So you can tell they're hoping it can be something they do. So if it does well enough that we can get an occasional movie every, year or so, that'd be some fun stuff, because I know folks and this cast are very much into finding a way, even with other work they've been getting. So we will have to wait to see what might come. But hey, we also have to step back. And as we've said for many other shows, many of them never get a chance in any form, audio or movie or whatever, to get more content. So great to see it happen.
Yeah. I mean, if this is all that you get, they did a good job of telling an interesting story, leaving the door open for more, but not leaving, a horrible cliffhanger. So let's close things out in the back porch talking about the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. For me, this whole season is about getting all these rings and getting them into the hands of everybody. I like how we're seeing the way that Anatar, aka Sauron, operates in terms of how he manipulates people, how he uses things that are true to draw people into the wrong conclusions. Great example when he tells Celebrimbor that it was his lie to, I'm forgetting his name, the head of the elves, saying, I shut down the forge. It's like that was what tainted the rings for the dwarves, and not whatever Sauron actually did before he put the mithril into the forge to forge those rings. It was also cool to see how King Durin is being slowly twisted by the power of the ring. I mentioned Celebrimbor. By the end of the most recent episode, he's physically looking different and has really turned to his worst traits in terms of the way he treats the people that are working for him, and everything about him. Plus, we have Sauron, literally throwing shade. He makes Celebrimbor not see the reality of the siege that's happening in Region. I also really liked how Galadriel gets captured by Adar, and Adar, is trying to get information out of her. So he thinks he's getting what he wanted, but she realizes, no, what's actually happening is you're going to become Sauron's army, and you don't even realize it. But he's unwilling to accept that he's been duped. So it's going to be interesting to see how the forces all come together. I really liked when, I think her name's Muriel, the queen of Numenor, the scene where she has to face the Valar and gets assessed as okay and thrown back up onto the shore. That was a wonderful sort of pull the rug out from under moment from, I think his name's Farazan, who, this was supposed to be the test that was going to get rid of Elendil and her, and it didn't happen. So I really like that. as well. I think that was kind of the high points for me.
I'd be honest with you, Wendy, there's so much going on in the show. So many characters in so many places. I think it kind of suffers from that. I do enjoy it. But there's so much that to easily distract you. And then you're like, oh yeah, wait a minute. These people had a story too. I forgot all about that. The stuff going on with the dwarves was interesting. It's kind of almost cliche with the king. I mean, we know it has to happen. Lord of the Rings is filled with a lot of cliches because a lot of cliches in literature come from Lord of the Rings, in modern literature. But that he's, falling under the spell of the ring and so forth. And it looked like we had a glimmer of hope there where his son thought that he was actually, standing up to the draw of the ring. And then at the end, he's like, no, he was offering stuff. Now he'll be back and he'll give us even more, It's like, oh no. And it's cool to see the setup down with the dwarves and hearing, I think his name's Gimli, right? Telling us in Lord of the Rings, the actual, the trilogy, telling us about his family and the pitfalls that happen in this whole place that we're at, this particular mine, this particular home, kingdom, whatever you want to call it, where they dug too deep, remember? Well, that's what they're doing now. They're starting to dig too deep, and we see what's down there. That nasty creature that Gandalf fell with. So we're getting glimpses of the Lord of the Rings, which is really cool. The stranger, talking to Tom and learning more about how he has a destiny, and he has to do things he may not want to do. So we get a little bit of that, which is really cool. I like that side of it. The Galadriel being captured, okay, interesting, but to me it seems like that's kind of drawing things out that this whole story suffers from us knowing where everything's going, in a sense. So it's really about the characters and the moments that we have to go for, and I'd rather see her like fighting than talking to somebody while she's a captive. That sounds exciting to me. But yeah, just so much stuff going on. I don't know about you guys, but that's what the Lord of the Rings in Tolkien's world and universe in general is all about, though. It's all about a lot of different groups of people doing a lot of different things, and just kind of marching along, the march of time and seeing what's happening, and then big antagonists and some good guys. So we're getting that here too, for sure. But it's also kind of distracting in a TV show, I think, because it takes you so long to get back to somebody else. I'm not trying to ding the show. I love it. It's visually beautiful. The acting is wonderful. I love the universe. I'm a big Tolkien fan. It's just that, and I rated this second one, I watched it soon. I really enjoyed it. It's just that I kind of wish it would get a little faster. It's still that show that I leave on almost in the background. And in fact, often in the background as I'm doing other things. I'll just kind of look over at the other monitor and watch it. And if it's something I'm not too interested in, I'll just focus on what I'm doing. And I don't like that. I really wish it was a show that I could just be glued to,
Interesting that you should say that, because I found myself on occasion with this show, certainly in the second season, sometimes having to start it and then stop, because I can tell I'm just not mentally in that spot to have a bit of a slow pace and just enjoying the visuals and some of the dialogue that is the nature of this story. But yeah, I mean, and I've talked about it. I mean, we've only got 2 episodes left, but we're big crap is happening now and going to happen in the final couple of episodes, I'm sure. But as you said, Brent, and as we've talked about many times, when you know where some of the story bits are going because of the nature of a prequel, if you will, or the universe that you already know, later stuff, sometimes it's kind of hard and like, okay, yeah, I know it's going to happen, get there. And with this show, you just enjoy the performances and the folks kind of getting there to make it kind of happen. But yeah, some of the Galadriel stuff is some of the stuff I really want to see because, yeah, she's been kind of trying to do her bit and then realizing that, oops, it's more of the chess pieces. Sauron is letting people do things that they think are against him or for their reasons when it all is going to work in his master plan, which is very interesting to kind of see it come together. So I'm looking forward to the final 2 episodes because we've kind of got there and it's been some enjoyment, but there are some of them, as I think Brent, you said, and Wendy you alluded to at one point too, is just there are so many separate storylines that in a given week, sometimes I'm like, I miss this character set or that character set because I can only give them so much time getting there. So I think this is a show that would probably, again, if I had the time, I would enjoy more when I go back on a rewatch doing it in more consolidated timeline to be able to move between those stories a little quicker than only, a week apart. But like you kind of alluded, Brent, I'm not knocking it. It's just, it's what it is. So I know I have to be in a certain mindset to get the most out of it.
Well, I mean, as we were even talking, I didn't even mention the stranger, aka probably Gandalf, and the Harfoots and that whole story, and him still working with Tom Bombadil, who tells him, you need to go on your quest, and he's like, I need to go help my friends. That's a huge character moment, and we didn't even talk about it. I almost think the show maybe should have been a little more ruthless about in every episode kind of hitting all of the locations, because I've kind of forgotten about some people. We have this dark wizard who's coming for the stranger and kind of forgot about him too. So it's almost a case of, sometimes I dinged shows like Game of Thrones because it's like, well, we had to go have a scene with them because we had to be reminded they exist. But I'm sort of like, yeah, I kind of needed a scene to remind me they exist. In this show, it might have been a good idea to consider. But it is dense. There's a lot of characters. I was thinking about Brent's comment about we know where the story is going. And that's one of the reasons why the Adar and the Oruks is interesting, because that whole idea about these were corrupted elves and all that, I don't remember that really from Lord of the Rings. So to me, that is interesting to see how it's all going to play out. And I'm still curious about how we're going to get now, especially because we have so many people who know who Anatar is, how we're going to get these last rings, not just forged, but actually convince men to take them.
Yeah, from the Lord of the Rings, we did the books and the movies. They talked about how the goblins and the orcs were corrupted elves. So that has been discussed before. I did mention Tom and the stranger when I was talking, because to my mind, that was one of the important things, his choice he had to make. And that's definitely one of my favorite characters of this series is the stranger. And Galadriel, but I think she's in a position now where she's not really contributing much to the story, so I don't really like this position she's in. But yeah, there's so much potential here, and it's good. That's why I'm rating it decently. I just wish it would go a little faster. That's all, a little more concise.
Yep, but I think because they do have these beautiful sets and places, they're sort of lingering in them. Well, we are not going to linger any longer, though. We're going to wrap up this show. We would love to hear your feedback and comments about anything we've talked about. And as always, want to thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. And I want to thank Kevin and Brent for another fun time talking genre TV. We'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. Catch you next time.
Have a great week, everybody.
If you'd like to contact Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, we offer a variety of feedback options, including email at feedback@tuningintoscifitv.com, voicemail at 706-927-8478, Skype voicemail at Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, or you can visit our website at tuningintoscifitv.com and use the SpeakPipe app or our forums. And finally, you can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/tuningintosci-fi or on Facebook at facebook.com/tuningintosci-fi TV. The theme music for Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV is by Beatnik Turtle, used with permission. You've been listening to Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, episode 660, recorded September 22nd, 2024.